With tensions between the U.S. and Iran near a breaking point, Australia's burning, and the Senate impeachment trial imminent, I think, it's no surprise the 2020 election hasn't exactly been top of mind for many. But ready or not, we're just 27 days away from the Iowa caucuses, 35 days away from voters casting their ballots in New Hampshire, where Bernie Sanders has been building momentum in both places. Just 3 months after a heart attack threatened the future of his campaign, he's now in first place among New Hampshire voters, just edging out Biden for the top spot. And in Iowa, they're in a three-way tie for first with Pete Buttigieg. Nationally, Sanders is holding steady in second place, pushing one-time frontrunner Elizabeth Warren into third. In the coming weeks, though, Sanders, Warren, and three other presidential contenders will have to divide their attention between the campaign trail and their duties in the Senate when the impeachment trial begins. Of course, exactly when that will happen is still up in the air, and although Republican Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is telling supporters he has the votes to proceed without calling any witnesses, Democrats are still fighting.
If any Senate Republican opposes issuing subpoenas to the four witnesses and documents we've requested, they would make it absolutely clear they're participating in a cover-up.
House Democrats are treating impeachment like a political toy, treating their own effort to remove our commander-in-chief like some frivolous game.
So where are we in the Democratic race to replace Donald Trump? Joining me are Mohammed Missouri, Executive Director of JETPAC Inc., which trains Muslim candidates to run for office. He's supporting Bernie Sanders. Good to meet you. Thanks so much for being here. Alethea Harney is a former senior campaign advisor to Vice President Joe Biden and the former press secretary, for Senator Elizabeth Warren's Senate campaign. She is leaning towards Biden. It's good to see you again, too. Thanks for being here. 27 days to go. Sanders is surging. Why?
He's raising a lot of money, which obviously always helps. He's been steady throughout the last 4 years, despite a lot of attacks, and he's got a lot of enthusiasm with his supporters.
Why should voters feel comfortable with a 79-year-old, which is what he'd be next November, self-described democratic socialist who just had a heart attack? Toughest job in the world.
I think if you look at his enthusiasm and if you look at how he takes batting practice and shoots hoops, he's got more. I mean, he's in better shape than I am, to be honest.
You know, my analysis of this thing, you didn't use that word, is authenticity is a big part of the thing. I think authenticity is also a big part of the thing with the guy you're leaning towards, too. Why Biden rather than Warren?
Well, and I didn't know you were going to call me out like that.
I did. I guess I did, though, didn't I?
You know, I'm strong for both of them.
All of it's true, though, right?
Yeah, I do. I think the authenticity totally comes into factor. You know, Biden just had a tour, the No Malarkey tour. And to be honest, my first reaction was, oh, my goodness, no malarkey, what are we doing? But I think Biden has been told in this race, you can't be a close talker when he's a close talker. You can't relate to people. You can't give them hugs. I think that he finally decided, I'm going to have a no malarkey tour. I'm going to be myself. And his numbers actually went up after it.
It's part of this thing also. Barack Obama was talking to Georgia gubernatorial candidate, former candidate Stacey Abrams. I think it was November. This is what he said, which has been played throughout the land. This is still a country that is less revolutionary than it is interested in improvement. They like seeing things improve, but the average American doesn't think we need to completely tear down the system and remake it. I think it's important for us not to lose sight of that. Is that part of the appeal? It basically seems to me that Obama's saying, without saying, don't vote for Warren or Sanders, vote for somebody like Joe Biden.
Well, I think, I mean, with what's going on in Iran right now, the vice president gave a great speech today showing that he's comfortable when it comes to foreign policy, and I think that means a lot to people.
Are you comfortable? Do you not feel there's shaky moments
there are
in Joe Biden?
There are shaky moments.
Does that not make you nervous?
Well, it doesn't make me nervous because I still trust the fact that he's a steady leader, that he's going to put the right people into place in his administration, and he's going to do a great job.
You know, electability, virtually every single poll, people state, Democratic voters state their ideological preferences, and then they say, however, almost overwhelmingly, even though Jane Doe is my preference, I'm going to vote for John Doe if I believe he has a greater chance. Your guy was leading overwhelmingly. Look at some recent numbers, though, from CBS. This is first in Iowa primary voters. Who would win against Trump? The electability issue. Sanders not that far behind Biden, 9 points. Move to New Hampshire, though. It's almost, I believe it's within the margin of error. This is just a few days ago. Biden and Sanders basically in a dead heat on the electability front. That does reduce your guys' advantage, does it not?
It does. And it surprises me. But you had said, Mohammed had said that Bernie has survived a lot of attacks. I actually don't think he's been attacked a lot. On the debate stage, when they say there have been all these lofty ideas, it's always Elizabeth who steps up, Senator Warren who steps up to say, no, that isn't the case. We have a plan. We're going to lay it out. So Bernie's done a really good job of not even engaging and kind of
By the way,
letting
I wish
her
I
lead the
had
way
picked up on
that.
that. She's totally right. I can't think of one serious attack on Sanders. He's on the attack of late. We're going to get to that in a minute.
I mean, I would say that if you look at the amount of op-eds that have been against him, if you look at just regular news shows on MSNBC and CNN where you have surrogates of other candidates, they've been attacking him. And a lot of talk show hosts attack him as well. So I don't think that's completely true. I think if you look at just what is called mainstream media over the last 4 years, there have been several attacks against him on multiple issues, and he survived all of them.
Speaking of attacks, Sanders has rarely been on the attack. He's on the attack against billionaires all the time, but not so much against other candidates. Last night on CNN with Anderson Cooper, here's part of what he had to say about your potential guy, Joe Biden. And here's what Biden had to say a few days ago in response to similar comments from Sanders. Sanders first, then Biden. Here.
Joe Biden voted and helped lead the effort for the war in Iraq, the most dangerous foreign policy blunder in the modern history of this country. Joe Biden voted for the disastrous trade agreements like NAFTA. And I just don't think that that kind of record is going to bring forth the energy that we need to defeat Trump.
You're not going to get me in a fight with Bernie.
Thank you.
Bernie's got enough baggage.
So the basic message is experience is one thing. And I think Iran, my initial reaction, like a lot of people, was Iran clearly helped Biden because he's got by far the most foreign policy experience.
Right.
But the basic message from his guy, Sanders, is experience is one thing, wisdom is another thing. And Sanders' comment is he doesn't have wisdom.
Well, it's easy to have wisdom now that it's already happened. At the time of the Iraq vote, a lot of people thought that it was the right move to make.
Not Sanders.
Not Sanders.
Well, the thing about Bernie is that he's been in Congress for 25 years,
Sure.
never passed any major piece of legislation, because if he has one little problem with one little thing, then he decides it's no good.
Are you looking at my interview notes, by the way?
No, but I don't know how that
kidding.
person could
I don't-
possibly
What has
lead
Sanders?
the nation.
Answer that. What is Sanders' major legislative accomplishment after having been in Congress practically a lifetime?
I think if you look at, for those who talk about, being good on the inside, what he did was establish relationships with people where he could pass amendments to legislation. And that he did do on multiple issues. Even, and I think you have to look at the last 4 years when he ran for president and built that giant movement and look at him standing with union workers, getting $15 minimum
got
wage.
us President Trump.
But he has changed the whole debate in the Democratic Party, has he not?
Which I appreciate, yes.
Including for Biden and others.
Right.
Okay. Is it important, and I'm sorry to obsess on the age, but I think it really does matter, and people don't talk about it enough. One's going to be 78. Well, one's going to be 79, one almost 79, should they be elected president of the United States. Does that make it more important for each of them to pick a vice president in advance early on, so that the voters know that even if you're a little anxious about how old I'm going to be when I'm president of the United States, I have a nice 45-year-old competent person standing, I'm serious about that, standing next to me. Is that something that would be to their advantage to do early on rather than waiting till convention time?
Probably. It's tough, though, because it seems presumptuous, right?
Yeah.
I think it seems presumptuous. I think it's okay to wait. If that was a real problem, I think we would see that in the numbers. Throughout last year, their numbers remained steady. They're the only two where their numbers remained steady throughout the year. They didn't really go up and down.
I mean, it's crazy how much young people believe in the old guys.
Right. And so I don't think age really matters to people. Ultimately, if you do win the nomination, I think both of them do have to pick someone younger.
Another thing that will have an impact, if there's ever an impeachment trial in the Senate, it seems to me, I know this is not an original thought, three of the leaders, Klobuchar is the one we haven't mentioned as a senator, obviously Sanders, Warren, and Klobuchar, not only have to leave the campaign trail, but have to be silent during a trial. And there's a real sensitivity when you go out in the hall to do an interview with CNN or MSNBC or Fox News. You can't just rail about something in the middle of the serious proceeding. That hurts your... And by the way, and Biden and Buttigieg are out there campaigning full time. That is a problem if this happens before Iowa and New Hampshire, is it not?
I don't see why the Republican Party thinks it's a good idea to have something like that being drawn out. I think, if anything, they would want to do that quickly if they do have a trial.
But it does hurt your guy, does it not?
I mean, if he can't
commission?
campaign, look at the surrogates he has, though. He's got, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who's an excellent,
a pretty big deal,
and an excellent retail politician, excellent campaigner, right? She can help out in that campaign. The same thing with Congresswoman Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib and others. And look at the endorsements that he got recently from the CPA and other groups who are putting behind him just thousands of their membership to knock on doors.
We only have 30 seconds left. The person we haven't discussed tonight, because we've discussed them a lot in other days, is the other moderate sort of candidate, Pete Buttigieg. He's the other one that'll be out campaigning big time with Joe Biden should this trial happen.
And he's spent his cave money well, right? It's with his organization. He has the most organizers, and at the end of the day, that's what the caucuses are going to come down to.
Good you slipped that line in. Anyway. Good to see you, Alethea. Take care.
Good to see
We'll have
you
a pleasure to meet you. Thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate it.